Well, let's go ahead and get started. I can't believe it, guys. We're on session 4 already. It's going by quickly. Really quick before I forget. So with Coach Training EDU, there's several of us trainers, and what we like to do is like trade classes like every 4 weeks or so, just so that every classes can benefit from other trainers. So next week, Lindsay Helm is going to be leading this class, and I'm going to be leading one of her classes on Wednesday night instead. So she's going to be leading session 5. So I'm excited for you guys to benefit from her training as well. So heads up, so Lindsay will be here instead of me next week. And then I did notice on the Facebook as well as email thread, a lot of you guys looking for support around business building and launching out there. And so I wanted to address that before I forgot, is on your training materials page, there is something called Build Your Life's Work. And that's a separate kind of program you can work through. It's offered in a separate class, but you have total access to all the materials in this training program. So if that's something you're really wanting to do, I can support you through email and so on through that, and then you can have accountability with each other. But I highly recommend digging into that. It's built so you can go through it in the 6 months. It's broken down into really reasonable steps for building a business. So I highly recommend that you guys take a look at that. It's called Build Your Life's Work. It's one of the materials that is linked there. So, is everyone aware of that? Any questions as far as that, or anything else as far as support around business building? Or questions about anything else before we start?
I have as far as documentation, do we have anything that's documentation tools? In Rec Therapy, we have a progress note where we have other goals listed and whether or not they meet. Is there anything like that out there, or do people use
to document
those?
Sessions?
Yeah, kind of like what you covered, so that, good for you so you remember next time you see them, but also for them to have something to kind of see where they are and what they're working on.
Yeah, well, what's really good is, I would highly recommend having them take notes, or even bottom line for so what did you learn from this today? And you take notes is really empowering. But on the client log that you'll turn in, there's actually something where you can write down the client's name, and you're supposed to be doing that for your practice clients anyways. But you can write down what you worked on, and if you wanted, you could send them a follow-up note thanks for meeting today. This is what we worked on. This is what you agreed was your action step. But it's great to have that conversation with them. But I would send them a follow-up note, or have. But documentation-wise, we have the client log there that you could use, what tools we specifically used, what we covered. And you guys could fill that out together at the end of the session. To you, what was the main things that we talked about? It's really interesting doing that too, because sometimes it's different perspective.
Yeah. Thank you. That helps.
Have you ever had classes that kind of on their own maybe created a Google Doc or something like that for that same purpose, to document on an ongoing basis thoughts or notes from individual sessions, and to build those over time for people to refer back to?
That's a great thought. I know we do that as trainers, so we're constantly updating our notes for leading sessions. But if you guys want to build a Google Doc, I'd say go ahead. I know we have the thread and the Facebook group as well. But if you, I haven't really had them as far as taking notes, but I would say that's a great idea to collaborate on.
Yeah, I only thought about it because the Facebook and the email threads are about maybe sharing thoughts and seeking out resources where this could be. And I'm not even advocating it necessarily. I'm not a very good Google user, but documenting our notes, and so that I could see how someone else reacted to a certain, exercise, or what their takeaways from the session were. Because like you said, it's probably pretty likely that our takeaways might be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and most of the time, like, I will take time to share takeaways at the end of each session. But if that's something you guys want to go ahead and create, I'd say that sounds really good. Also, taking time to, initiate meeting with each other outside of class, if possible, I think is another really great thing, just to discuss, what did you think of that? I'd really love to practice this. And, you can trade, like, coaching and, practice outside of class is another great idea. But I haven't had anyone specifically use Google Docs. But, I mean, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any questions on the material for tonight? Or on anything else while we're open?
Hannah, can we review the assignment that will be due the next time we meet with you? Or will Lindsay go over that with us?
Yes, that's the last point I wanted to make sure I hit. So it's due next week. So this is called the quick check. It's not a full-length overview. So I highly recommend that it's with a practice client. However, this is the one that could technically be with a friend or family member. The full-length overviews cannot be with a friend or family, someone that you know really well. But for the quick check, that is going to be 30 minutes of recording that we're going to listen to, or we'll listen to 15 minutes and we'll be able to discuss for 15 minutes. And actually, I'll go ahead and pull up exactly what you guys are going to be graded on so we can walk through it and what it means. Let's see.
Is it due next week or the week after? I thought it was due in week 6.
I think the reminder is next week. So, yeah, so week 6, but since we're not meeting, and usually those deadlines are just, we want to stick as closely with them as possible, but you technically could get it done a little earlier, a little bit later. We'll kind of see on scheduling too. So, Ed, did you have a question?
Yeah, on page 83, the number 1, about how, have your client read each of 9 paragraphs. What is that?
Yes, so that's the core motivation tool. So that is a separate document that's on the materials page.
What is it?
It's a separate document that's on the materials page. It's the core motivation handout. So that was under as well as the reading for the chapter, that was one of the assignments for today.
Okay, but where did you post this?
Where did I post it?
Yeah.
It's under the week assignments. So you should see it under week 4. It should say core motivation handout, and then it's in the left column with additional materials.
Okay, let me understand. Did you send this by email?
No, it's on the materials page.
Oh, okay, I got it.
So you should be able to, if you haven't read that, you can go ahead and pull it up. It's in the left column, but you'll see it under week 4.
I got it.
Okay. All right, and we'll talk about that. What was that?
Was there print material, Hannah, or just the recorded session from John?
Yeah, there's a full-length book and a handout. So the handout it's linked in the left column. Here, I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat in case everyone hasn't seen it. That's the handout.
Okay. I don't see it on the page, but anyway.
It should be on the right column with all the other materials.
On the right or the left?
It should be on the right. At least it's on my screen, it's the right. But those are the 2 additional materials. So the book was not required to read the full length book, but the handout is what you'd use with clients. Here,
Okay. And which one did you want us to look at for today?
The handout.
Okay, thank you.
The book is additional reading. Okay. We'll get to that in just a second. And it's okay if everyone hasn't read it. We'll make sure that everyone's caught up and on the same page. But I did want to share with you guys. So this is this is the coaching call assessment. And as you can see the bottom tab, it says quick check, agenda, and powerful questions. This is your first assignment. So it's 30 minutes of recorded material. And what we're really looking at is, I'm actually not on here. It's not showing up on here because this is not the updated one. But there, we're looking at designing the alliance, the agenda, making sure there's a really strong agenda and measure of success. And then how well did you use open-ended questions, and then learning and being questions. So we'll kind of see how many learning and being questions you ask. So really, it's just the first part of a session. Let me see if I can find.
It's the first part of the first session, right?
Yes. Yes. But of any, like the first session in that coaching, in your guys' coaching relationship too, typically.
Okay.
So you'll cover design the alliance. There's actually a new one we'll be using. But it's pretty straightforward, and here, let's see. I think this one shows it. You can use that PDF. It's great to use. So here we go. So this is the new one. So how well did the coach describe coaching? How professional was the coach in reviewing confidentiality with the client? And did the coach design an alliance with the client? And then agenda, measure of success, powerful questions, were they open-ended, and then learning and being questions. All right. So that's the first overview. So it's just a quick check, 30 minutes. That one can be with a family member or friend. Client is better because that it's you don't know them as well. But that's the only one that's really allowed for friend or family member if you don't have your practice client yet. And then we'll go over that and we'll schedule individual time. So actually, if you guys want to start emailing me with within the next 2 weeks, what times work good for you, and your availability, we'll work on scheduling times together. But that's the first assignment. Is there any questions on that?
How and what format did you want it recorded? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter, but I just need to open it. So I've had a lot.
I have an app on my phone that I downloaded, but I don't know its limitations.
Yeah, maybe try it out.
Okay.
I find that either putting it in Dropbox and sharing it with me or Google Drive is really efficient. But I've had other people use different formats too. I would just test it out so that.
Okay.
And then make sure you send the recording ahead of time, and that way we can work out anything, so that we don't spend our time.
Okay.
That way.
Does it need to have video, Hannah, or is just audio okay?
Just audio.
Okay.
And it's
Do
30
you prefer just audio?
Yeah. Audio is preferable. Yes, it's just 30 minutes, but you could have your full length session, so it could be an hour. But we're listening to this the first 15 minutes, so it's at least 30 minutes. But it can definitely be longer.
And you're going to listen to it before the actual session when we talk about it. You're going to listen to it beforehand?
We actually listen to it together.
Okay.
Or
okay.
like
Just wanted to know.
Good question. So we'll pause and talk about it, or we'll listen all the way through. It just depends. Okay. Any other questions on that first assignment coming up? Okay. All right. Well, clients being, we're getting into that. Doing being first here. So it goes along with core motivation. And the reason why that is, it just really helps a client identify who they're being. And a lot of the questions that are generated from the core motivation exercise are definitely being questions, so it's a really helpful tool just to get into being and to really understand your client. I'm a big fan of, not everyone has to say, this is my core motivation and I know exactly what I am. I mean, it's great if you can figure out even more so what motivates you, what's at your core of why you want to do what you want to do and who you are. But a lot of times clients will have top two. Sometimes you coach them around it and then they get more clarity. on their, who they really are. And that's why the handout's really helpful, as well as the book, because there's some questions like on telling the difference. Okay, if I'm stuck between these two, how do I tell the difference? Or what's the deciding factor between these two different types? Has anyone heard of the Enneagram before? Okay. So it's very similar. This is actually based on the Enneagram, but a little bit different names, and it's been through the perspective of coaching, kind of been redeveloped. But that's where it originated from. Is there any questions on clients being our core motivation before we dive a little deeper?
Can you talk about, would this be something probably early on in a coaching relationship, Hannah? Or midstream, or?
Yeah, it's really great to do probably one of the initial sessions. What you'll be learning about next week, the Wheel of Life with clients learning, that typically comes first, because it's like looking at their different areas of life and goals for the different areas of life and things like that. But typically core motivation would be after that. So it's great to get a picture of all their goals and all their areas of life, and then, what's motivating you? How are you best motivated? How do you face, different things? And so it's probably after a couple sessions, but definitely after Wheel of Life is what I would recommend. But it's a little bit backwards because we're doing being first, but.
Right. And is there like a test that people go through? Answer a series of questions or something? Yeah,
actually the handout. So here, I'll pull this up. So
yeah, I've got the handout in front of me, but
okay, I'll just share a screen that way we can all look at. You don't have to look down or anything. Okay, so how the assessment typically works. So there's not a test, but typically what you do is you have them read over each of these paragraphs. And highlight what stands out to them. So not even putting pressure on figure out which type you are, but just I want you to read this handout probably before the session, and highlight anything that sounds like you.
Okay. So it's not an assessment in the sense that they fill out a questionnaire and it's scored and they're placed in a certain category.
No. Yeah, it's as if, they're just reading everything, and then you coach them around it. They might be able to, after reading it, I'm totally this type. But they might be torn between 2 or 3 or maybe even 4. And that's where it comes around to coach them around it. Because there's some really good materials. If you look later on in the handout, strengths, learning style, leadership.
Right.
So if they're stuck, you coach them around it, but usually they have an idea after reading the paragraphs and just highlighting. But I'm a really big advocate of not stressing, figure out what type you are. You must have one type. Just explore this and see what stands out to you, and then go from there.
I had a question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do people change over time? Because there's something on the personal growth one, it said that healthy 7s integrate to 5, or does that mean that people change over the course of time, or?
I definitely think so. I know for me, I still have some tendencies of a peacemaker, but I've definitely grown out of some of the things that were not as beneficial. I was a big people pleaser, right? And now I've kind of moved away from that. And had to really work on, I'm not doing something because I want to make people happy. So for me, I personally know that I've changed. But I still have some of those core things that are really peacemaker. So I don't know, it could depend on the person, but they might still have some of those aspects of one of their core parts. What's really cool is, especially with the Wheel of Life, which you'll learn about next week, and the core motivation is keeping track of what type they said they were, and then checking in on it even later, or just you want to check in on growth. It's really cool because they might change over a couple months. They might realign, and make choices and work on some things maybe that aren't beneficial in that core motivation type for them. So I think it depends on the client, Sarah. I can't say, yes, your client will change. But
Mhm.
okay.
Anna, have you ever had anyone who is identified as one type, but kind of liked the traits under another type and said, I would like to kind of work towards some of these strengths that I'm seeing under another type? 'Cause that's what, I was reading some of them and I was like, oh, that would be really cool if I could work towards that, but I'm not that right now.
Right. Yeah. And I would say that's a really great self-awareness, but it's important to have that distinction between, what is actually you and what do you want to be? Because I have had that where I've had to wait, you're saying that you like all these different things in other ones, but do you like those? Or are those you? So that's another great conversation to have. So first, just find out what they actually identify with and distinguish it from what they oh, I would like to be this. Because you might get a client who says, I like everything in this, or identify with all this. And that's kind of a sign that they're not actually identifying with all of them. It resonates with them. Oh, I'd like to work on that. So definitely distinguish that when you're first helping them figure out their type. And then, yeah, I definitely say it's great to work on certain things. And I would explain okay, healthy, this number, adapt to this number, and this is what it would look like. Or they might be two, or there might be things that they have goals around then. And that's another great coaching conversation.
Okay.
Definitely make that distinction, because you might have someone that's I like everything, or I'm some of every type, and that's not really true in this assessment. You're not going to find someone that's every single type, because you can't at the core be all of these motivated by all these different types.
So just because something might resonate with them, that may not necessarily be who they are.
Right. It's more of where are you at right now? And then it's great to have a discussion. What would you like to work towards?
Okay.
And that's a great being question. Is who do you want to be? Right? That's a great conversation. And you can learn a lot by someone by, well, why does that resonate with you? So that's a whole other conversation. So for the purpose of the assessment, figure out who they are right now, but it's always fine to talk about who do you want to be. And a lot of times if you bring up, okay, what characteristics of the people that you admire the most, it's likely that maybe those people are those types, and that's why they resonate. At least that's what I found. But great exploratory conversation, but find out what type they are most right now, and maybe what they want to work towards.
Mhm.
This conversation, this tool could probably be a couple sessions worth, JC, to be honest.
Okay.
It's there's just so much to it. There's so many different ways that you could go at it. You could literally probably take each type and, okay, we're going to just walk through what would it be like if you were this type. I mean, you could literally have an individual session for each exploratory session like that. So there is an initial session where you'd want to find out their type, but this could be an ongoing conversation. This could be a question you bring up about core motivation 5 sessions down the road. So there's kind of unlimited potential, I guess, for what you could use this for.
Thank you.
All right. So could you guys raise your hands if you did read the core motivation handout, or should we take turns reading paragraphs? Okay, Robin.
I didn't get a chance to read that.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so just a couple of us haven't read it. What would be most beneficial? Would it be helpful to just talk about each type, or take turns reading paragraphs? What would be most helpful?
It might be a fun exercise to read through a few of them, see how people react.
Sure. Okay. And the people that have read it, just keep in mind, we are wanting to see what you identify with, because that's going to be what we're coaching around tonight. So let's see. Who would like to read type 1, the perfectionist?
I can read that.
Do you want me to share it, or do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
Okay.
This one resonates with me. I have been working on my logo, and I have been pulled into the font rabbit hole, and it's amazing how many pages of fonts you can find on the internet. And because I'm a perfectionist, it swallowed up hours of my time, and this is what I offer as my excuse for not having read this. So, all right. I strive for things to be perfect and in place. If I am passionate about something, I work really hard and spend a lot of time on it. I want other things around me to be perfect, but I'm mostly hard on myself. I am very critical of the things I do, and I'm very disappointed in myself when I make a mistake. I often have a lot of priorities on my plate, but I just want to improve my life and the lives of others. Often people follow my lead, and I am comfortable in that leadership capacity. Whatever I have to do, it has to be done right, and I will do what it takes to get there. Others might say I'm intense or too serious at times, but I just like to be focused, and I would rather relax when the work is done.
Okay. Kellen, is there anything else in that paragraph that resonated with you?
With me, I have a tendency to, keep at it, like with the fonts, I'm trying to find the perfect font, and I should probably, not spend quite as much time on that. But in the end, I'm usually okay with that because I feel like I got, what I wanted. So, I would have to say that the thing that I would change in myself about my perfectionism is the fact that I sometimes feel inhibited. I don't let myself, just be a little more. I'm not as carefree. Sometimes I feel like, if I could just sit down and kind of let loose, I could be a little more creative and I wouldn't be so hard on myself. So, I feel like there are pluses and minuses to being a perfectionist. I usually in the end have things the way that I'd like them to be, but on the other hand, I feel like it stifles my creativity a little bit.
Thanks for sharing, Kellen.
Sure.
So, would you say for sure this is your type, or have you looked at the other types yet?
I haven't looked through the rest, so I don't know yet, but that's right up there, I know.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else feel like one of their type is a perfectionist, or one of their maybe top 2 types?
Yep.
Why so, JC?
Well, I work with a health coach through my job. It's an opportunity that we get to lower our insurance if we participate in preventive living activities. And the first session we had, I was sitting there telling her kind of, what I wanted to work on and like what I was feeling. And she just sat back and she was like, I feel like you are impacted by a lot of judgment. And I was like, oh, no. I march to the beat of my own drum. It's none of my business what other people think of me. Like, no. And she was like, no, I mean judgment from yourself. You're very hard on yourself. And you don't seem to notice it. And it was literally like this massive like aha moment. And I was like, oh my Lord, like literally, if I learned nothing else from health coaching, this was like the light moment.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, JC. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. Who will read 7?
7?
Yep. Oh, Kanika? Okay. Oh, I can't hear you. Go ahead. Oh, we can't hear you.
Kanika?
Yeah, I don't know why it's not working because you're unmuted.
She's.
Oh, call back in.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay, let me talk like that then. I enjoy life at a fast pace. I like to create many options for myself and future plans. I keep many options open. I shy away from negative emotion, and I hate feeling bored or trapped with my life. If I'm upset over something, I do not want to dwell on it. Sometimes I will get really excited over something rather quickly, but then eventually I will get bored with it and forget about it or drop it. Oftentimes I will start things that do not quite get finished. At the same time, I'm very optimistic and I believe life is a ride that is meant to be enjoyed. When I have several options that I can choose from, I have a hard time deciding because I want them all.
All right. Who is that?
Definitely me. And Mike and Sarah.
Okay. All right. I'm writing down. Okay. So why do you feel like that's you, Kanika?
I think, I mean, I relate to almost everything in this because there's so many times I'm very indecisive about what I want because everything seems exciting. I see the positives and the negatives in all of it, and it's very difficult to decide, okay, what? Even something like, what do you want to eat today? So it gets very difficult. Now that I'm looking for a job and then I'm deciding between this, it is a decision that I have to make every day, and every morning I'll come up with, oh, actually no, you know what? So it's really difficult. So I relate to that.
Hannah, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself because there was an echo. I said, thank you, Kanika. Mike, what about you?
Definitely having lots of irons in the fire, getting excited about things at the initial part of the journey, and then having excitement trail off toward the end. And emotion follows that same curve. Emotion follows effort, and just, my wife would probably say I'm always coming through with new ideas. And the thing she's learned to listen for a while because she knows I'll probably trail off with that idea if she just lets it go for a while. So those are the main things. Yeah, definitely life is a ride and I want to enjoy it. And I have a hard time choosing between options.
Sarah, what about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's my strongest one. Well, I have ADHD, and so for me, like, I'm always thinking of a million things that sound awesome to do all the time. And so I totally identify, like in my undergrad, I took me 7 years to finish because I had 4 different majors. And I just think of new things that I like. So yeah, that's definitely me. A couple of days ago, I found like an aqua mermaid certification to become an aqua mermaid fitness instructor. And I was thinking, wow, maybe after life coaching, I'll just go do that. And I'll open a school. It's going to be awesome. So I'm sort of the same way. Like, life to me is just a big, wonderful ride to be enjoyed. And it's really how to put it down, get on my passion, going in the same path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. One thing to be careful with this one is just because sometimes when people see the word optimist, they think, oh, yeah, I want to be an optimist. And then they say that's their type. That's what I've noticed that with a lot, that word. So it's really important to go over, like, what about it? Because sometimes just someone wants to look on the brighter side of things. Like, they think of that's what the optimist type is. But it's really, there's a lot more to it than that. So I noticed that with a lot just in coaching around that one. All right, let's see. Who will read type 5?
I mean, I can if you want me to. I mean,
yeah, that'd be great, Robin.
It's not mine, but type 5, the thinker. I love being the expert. Before I delve into something, I want to know as much as I can. I do not like to be wrong or corrected, which is why I do not know something. If I do not know something, I would rather not say it. I'm happy to argue my points for what I believe is right, but if the facts do not support my ideas, I will reconsider my idea. I often thrive on alone time, and I like to think about my past experiences. I am pretty independent, and I do not want to have to rely or depend on someone else. I crave information and knowledge, and I am not shy in a group setting where I can speak up and say what I know and express what I want. Overall, I'm a simple person and my life is rather straightforward.
Okay. Does that resonate with anyone as your type?
I think it's my second type.
Okay. Well, there's just Robin and Eddie left. So, Robin, what type did you feel like was your number one?
Oh, number 7 is mine. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So we have 4 7s.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts to add about the 7?
I just think like anything can be done. I mean, really, anything can be done. And I am that internal optimist. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Eddie, what's your question? Or your thought?
Okay, I could not find over here the handout. I don't know if I have a problem in the internet, but what is it? What is it in the web page?
It's on the materials page, but I put it in the chat. So if you look at the chat, I put the book and the handout both in the chat.
Okay.
Just so you guys can reach them right the second, not to worry.
Okay, I lost that.
Okay. All right. We went over number 5. Let's see. So we have a couple left. Do you guys want to keep reading, or do you want me to kind of summarize the types, or what would you think? The only one.
You can go ahead and summarize, I think. Yeah.
All right. So 2 is the helper. So really what's key to them is, they're motivated by helping others. Sometimes they can come across controlling or trying really hard. And I think, and one thing too, what I noticed is really key is that they want something in return. Like there's usually some sort of benefit or something like, oh, if I help people, then I know that they're going to be there for me. So it's not necessarily like I help people because I want something from them, but it's I help them, I'm investing in them so that they're there for me. So I've noticed that one can sometimes tend to be key, but they're really satisfied by not focusing on their own needs, but really being there for someone else. I feel like there's a lot of crosses between this and the perfectionist, but they have a hard time saying no because they want to help, versus the peacemaker might have a hard time because they just want to keep the peace. They don't want to cause conflict. So that's the difference, because they both might have a hard time saying no, but I feel like it's for different reasons. One just generally wants to help. The other one is, I want to keep the peace. I don't want to cause conflict. Let's see. The doer. So that's, very goal oriented, working rather quickly. You can get kind of irritable if something's not working. It might be working slowly. Sometimes they can be really competitive. Usually well liked. They make a good impression. They care about how others view them. But it's very important that they have a goal, they achieve it so they stay motivated. So a lot of times if you ask someone if they're trying to figure out their type, how does it feel when you can't reach a goal? And they said they're devastated and it's really hard for them to move forward and start something else. That might be a sign that they're a doer, because it's very important to them that they see the results after they, reach a goal in order to keep going and keep doing. And you'll notice that they don't like to do things that they're not good at. So these are the people that don't like to lose board games. All right. Number 4 is the artist. So very expressive around emotions, really desire to be understood, really view yourselves as genuine and unique, don't like to be misunderstood, or when people categorize them as, I'm just dramatic or I care too much. They're very passionate about how they reveal themselves to others. They want genuine connections. They want to get to know people and be known on a deeper level. So it's not someone, I just want to be artistic. It's like that the way that they express themselves is really key to the artist. And then we already talked about the thinker. 6 is the friend. So I like to be prepared for the worst. So they're almost like worst case scenario. Very imaginative, sometimes an odd sense of humor. Sometimes it's hard for them to trust those in authority. Let's see. It's very important to trust someone, then they can be very loyal. So it's not like, oh, I'm just a friend to everyone. It's they need to trust them. The trust is very important. And then ideas. So they don't like to be a follower. So if someone has an idea, they can really pick it apart and see why it's not going to work for them. So they test the waters a lot. They test the waters with people and ideas a lot. The friend. But once they commit to something, they're very committed. Let's see. And we already talked about the optimist. 8 is the defender. So that's someone who likes to really be in control, can sometimes be blunt and honest. But it's because they want things to be really clear. They get frustrated if there's, unfairness. They might seem controlling, but it's just because they want, things to go smoothly and be in charge. This is the person that maybe sees ahead and sees potential bottlenecks or things that might get in the way, and they're like, they might seem really strong in their opinion, but that's because they see what could potentially go wrong, and they want to make sure things go as smoothly as possible. Authority is another big one with this one. I feel like they also test people. They'd rather do things on their own because they see all the weaknesses in other people, and they really they want to do something about it. So they'd rather do it on their own. They don't like to be told what to do, but they will respect people in authority. But when they genuinely respect it, it's easier for them to follow. So I kind of see this one as maybe the people that come off as really sharp, I guess is the way to explain it, and blunt, but really they're just like, they see ahead and they want to make sure things go as smoothly as possible. And then the peacemaker, so very avoidant of conflict, confrontation, like things to go with the flow, especially in groups. They're good at seeing both sides of a situation. I personally have always been a peacemaker. I'm the middle child, I guess. That's kind of a sometimes what you see in terms of middle children, like, oh, the peacemaker. But what I've noticed is, you say no just because you don't want to make someone mad, or you want to keep things peaceful. And I know from my personal experience, I have exhausted myself just because I didn't want to disappoint people, constantly saying yes without hesitation or no problem, and then I'd be like, I literally don't have time. But I did it anyways, just because I didn't want to let people down. So that's what is distinguishing factor. It wasn't because I wanted to make people happy. It was because I didn't want to let them down. There was that almost that negative motivation for me. But at the same time, wanting people to be happy and things to be peaceful is a good thing. But that's one of the key things I've noticed is it's almost like you're motivated by avoiding conflict, avoiding things when they get uncomfortable. It's actually really funny. I'll share a quick story. So after I recognized, and I had worked with people on, I'm a people pleaser. I had to admit that. And I actually had a manager when I was 17, say Hannah, repeat after me. I am a people pleaser. And I actually, it was funny because now I think about it, he was actually coaching me through okay, what are you going to do to work on that? And it was funny, after I really worked on it, people even to this day are like, what happened to Hannah? She would always say yes. Or I had, maybe some people that were manipulative in my life that literally what happened to my sweet Hannah? I'm like, I'm still nice. I'm still sweet. I'm just not doing everything you say. It's really interesting. So that's from my personal experience. Peacemakers have it hard trying to transition out, especially out of just saying yes to people, because then people don't like it. So let's see, Robin, we have everyone else's type. Eddie, is there one that you thought was maybe your type? Oh, you're muted.
Now I print everything, you know. You're talking about the basic design. What are you talking about?
You were muted. Could you repeat your question?
Okay.
I unmuted you now, but you're unmuted.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good now?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
So what was your question, Eddie?
Okay. I was a little bit lost because I was print the material. Do you talking about the basic design? Basic desires?
Not yet. We're just looking at the paragraph. So this is the first 2 pages. We're talking about the different types.
Okay. I'm far away.
Okay. So if you want to
What
look,
are you talking about? The communication? You're talking about the communication, the personal growth? What are you talking about?
the first 2 pages, the ones that are just the summary paragraphs. Here, I'll show you.
Okay.
So
Okay, let me see.
this is what I'm looking at. So
Can you see?
these ones.
Oh, I don't have. Okay. Is my last 2 pages. Your first 2 is my last 2.
Yep. So that's we're just talking about the types. So Eddie, why don't you maybe skim over those and see if there's things that stand out to you. You'll also be coached around this later too in our individual sessions.
Okay. 2 levels.
Okay. All right. So those are the types. Does anyone have additional thoughts or questions on the 9 core motivation types?
Okay, I just get
Are
now.
you gonna?
Okay, what's your question about?
So I've been going around with everyone finding out what type they felt they were. So if you have a chance to read the 9 paragraphs, Eddie, and see which one
Let
you
me
think
see.
is you.
6, 7, 8, 9. Let me tell you something, Rena. I prefer don't read because when I read, I don't do very well. Okay? I can try, but I don't do very well when I read. It's okay for you? Or do I need to read?
You're fine.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mike,
did you have something to say or a question?
Oh, I was just wondering, and this may be coming up, but when you say that we can or we should coach around these personality types, is that something you're going to cover in more detail?
Yes, that's going to be our demo.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
But did anyone feel strongly they had a second type? Robin, I know your second was a 5, but just
Yes.
Yeah, I have like 3 types really.
what was it? What would you say is your second?
Probably the peacemaker and then the artist. I like all of those.
You like them or they're you?
No, I feel like yeah.
Okay.
The artist is first, but then the other 2 are like that.
Okay. All right. Anyone else feel like they strongly have a second type?
I have, I think a 7 as well.
Okay. Kellen, Mike, any other second type?
Probably 8.
Okay.
I'm going to read through it.
Okay. And it's just helpful to know if there are things that a secondary type, because when you go into your individual sessions later, it's really helpful. So I made sure to take notes. So is there anyone that would like to be my demo client as we walk through this? It's just going to be around gaining awareness. So you'll go deeper in individual time. So either I'll coach someone or I'll have someone coach me. So, Robin, I love how your bangs shake when you shake your head. Okay. Let's see. I know I've picked on JC recently. And I know I've coached Mike, and I know I've coached Robin. Sarah, are you up for it?
Okay. Okay, sure.
Okay. All right. Well, before we start, do you have any questions on core motivation? I know we've been discussing it.
Oh, me personally?
Yeah.
I was like, good. I think it's like a lot. It's a lot of information to just kind of take in, but I feel pretty good. I love it, actually. I love this whole section on being, because to me, it's just like it is the whole puzzle piece of kind of why people do things and why they're motivated to do things. So for me, it seems like a really important.
Okay. All right. So just to make sure I have this written down right. So you feel like number 1 is a 7, an optimist. Number 2 is a 9, peacemaker. And then 3, you also feel like you're a thinker.
Oh, an artist.
Oh, an artist. Oh, 4. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, just to clarify. Okay. All right. So we already kind of have an agenda around, okay, we're going to explore core motivation and help you gain awareness. So it's kind of, in a typical session, if we were doing this, you might find out what they're curious about learning with themselves, or they might have, okay, I know what my core motivation is. I want to find a better way to act out of it. So that might be their agenda. So we kind of have it already set. But Sarah, is there anything that you would like to get out of the next 15 minutes or so?
Well, I guess just kind of putting those in perspective. Like this last week, I've been thinking about my brand and kind of like what kind of image I want to portray and what, types of populations I want to serve and how I want everything to look. And so I feel like when I read those kind of popped out, and I've been drawing up logos and all that, but it seems like kind of neat to see it in action, I guess. So I don't know if it's something I've been working on, but.
So it sounds to me, if I'm right, you want to explore the connection between your core motivation types and maybe your personal brand and your business brand?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. So if you had to walk away with one thing or 2 things, what would you like to really get out of our time?
Maybe just some clarity and direction. More like direction on what I could kind of focus on for the week ahead. I guess clarity first and then direction. Yeah. On how to move forward with the branding process.
Okay. So it sounds like to me you want to know what your next step is with the branding process.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So we're going to explore core motivation, especially the relationship with your brand and your ideal clients. And then you want to get more clarity and direction, and that leads into at least getting one thing you can do for the week ahead. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. All right. So I'm curious, as we've been talking about core motivation, Sarah, what kind of clarity have you already gained about yourself?
Well, it really, I think I see the artist more than I realized, which has been kind of neat. It's one of those things that I feel like has been a part of me, but not something I really highlighted a lot. It's so, reading on this and thinking about branding, it's like, oh, why don't you try drawing up some logos or putting creative process into this? And when I did it, I really liked it coming. It's neat to kind of be reaffirmed. Oh yeah, you are kind of, and you are expressing. This is a neat avenue for you to keep exploring.
What's kept you from exploring the artist side of you in the past?
I think I've been too busy. Like, well, I work a lot with clients, usually 12-hour days, except Wednesdays. These are my slow days. So I feel like I just get caught in a role a lot, working straight through. And so it's more maybe about taking the time to do it and setting aside the time, sort of like that self-care, self-time to explore these things.
Mm-hmm. What kind of importance do you put on self-care?
Actually, it's funny, since I've been in this program, I'm putting more and more importance on it. Like, I've started kind of realigning my clients so they're not on Wednesdays. And so these are sort of my slow days to just work out and read and study. I have one client for 3 hours and that's it. And then the weekends, I've started working out more and eating better. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of ironic that I'm taking a life coaching class and then in turn taking better care of myself.
Why do you think that's funny?
Well, because it's life coaching, it's wellness coaching. This is what we would want others to do too. So in a way, it's kind of like being a model, I guess, being a model for myself for life coaching.
What do you most admire about yourself?
Well, I think I'm really positive and caring and funny. And yeah, I have a really big heart. Mm-hmm. Probably those things.
How important is it to you to be happy?
Well, I think it's how you define happy. Me having a purpose and feeling really fulfilled in life is what makes me feel happy. So I think having purpose and a drive for doing something great that I want to accomplish, that's really important. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah.
What did you say? Sorry, it cut off.
That's okay. Yeah, but having a purpose is kind of what makes me feel happy. So.
If you had to say what your purpose is, what would you say?
I don't know. These are tough questions. You really have to get internal in here.
That's when you know they're being questions. When you have to.
I'm getting all sweaty over here.
Are you okay to continue, or do you want to go a different direction?
Yes, I'm fine. No, it's just, yeah, and I think these are the kind of questions that you would give someone a lot of time to really just think about and before answering. Yeah, I don't know. I think I have a lot to contribute, and I want to spread sort of, I guess it's love and kindness, but like helping others find their purpose feels like a purpose to me. And that's weird, but that makes me so excited. And that's kind of, I guess that's why I'm so excited about this program, is because I think it's so neat to help people who might be stuck in the same kind of wheel that I've been stuck in working, which I love my work, but helping people kind of get out of that and live like a more purposeful life, that to me is amazing. So I feel like that's kind of a purpose. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I don't know if you had time to look at the handout, Sarah, but I just want to share something with you. So it is under Strengths, Learning Style, and Leadership. I want you to go ahead and take a look at the 7 under They Step into Leadership. And I want you to look at that. So it says, when 7s use their natural ability to stir things up for a purpose.
Yes, I feel like I identify with that a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That seems like that was what you were just describing.
Yeah.
that you want to do things for a purpose, and you were just describing the purpose.
Oh, yeah. You're so right. Interesting. And I think it's interesting, tend to be audio-based learners. My first major was music, the music therapy major for a long time. So that's interesting too. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Can I share an observation with you, Sarah?
Sure. Yeah.
I know you mentioned that artist was like maybe the third type that resonated with you, but from what you're saying, it sounds like 7 and 4, so the optimist and the artist are really connected. What do you think?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I can see that. I think it's that creative process. Yes, because something that resonated, well, what resonated with me on that was the idea of kind of taking the ordinary and making it extraordinary. Like, I love that. Like, taking something, like even like junk furniture and repainting it, like the colors. I love it. But like taking ideas or techniques or tools and then kind of reworking them in a creative way is really fun.
So, Sarah, it's interesting that you talked about purpose, right? And now you're talking about repurposing.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Funny. Yeah, no. Interesting. Yes, finding new purposes for things is fun too.
I'm really curious, Sarah, when you think of the word purpose, does any like images come to mind?
Wow. And I don't know, an image that's always resonated with me is just the heart symbol. For some reason, I have it all over my house in different artwork and things I've painted, and it's just everywhere. So I think that's sort of at the core of purpose, is love.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, Sarah.
Thank you.
So what's the connection with what you've been describing? So you've been describing a lot of the optimist traits and the artist. What's the connection with the peacemaker? Because you said that was one of your types as well.
Yeah. Let me look at it. Because it really, I guess it's that, like, I hate conflict and I hate well, I don't hate it, but it's hard for me. Negative emotions are hard. And so in my family, well, it's kind of interesting. So in my family, my dad is kind of the perfectionist and he's really hard on himself. But I have 2 brothers and my mom, and I feel like we all grew into these optimist, kind of happy people because he's hard to be around. So I feel like it's kind of interesting. I feel like we all kind of grew into real positive people just because environmentally how we grew up. So I always feel like we always were trying to make peace in the house and make everything fine. So I think that's why I resonate with that.
All right. Now, are you living on your own now or with a roommate? What's the situation for you?
Yeah, on my own. Yeah.
So is that more growing up, or what effects or fruit of the not perfection of the peacemaker do you see right now?
Oh, currently. Yeah, well, and in groups, so I have like lots of groups of friends and we go do things. I usually go along with the group, and I think I kind of resonated with that because I don't know, it seems easier to just kind of do what everyone's doing. So yeah, and I like to be happy. And also, I'm looking at it again, seeing multiple sides of the situation. That is really common for me. Sometimes I have trouble siding with one or the other because I see so many different perspectives, and I can kind of put myself in people's shoes and kind of see where they're coming from. So that part of it got me too. Oh.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. And actually, I think with the numbers that we have, let's see. I think I'll go ahead and work with you in breakout room, Sarah, so we can just continue our conversation. So everyone, like what we're going to lead into, you've noticed that we've talked a lot about just being questions. We did put it more of like a, is everyone here? It's frozen on my end.
No, we're good.
Okay, now it's better. We kind of made an individual agenda, but you can adopt something around really gaining awareness. And then the ideal kind of action step out of this exercise is like taking a mini experiment. So it helps you learn even more about being and having to see how you react in a situation. Or like taking an experiment. So for example, if like, oh, you hate being alone. Okay, spend some alone time and see what happens. So that's kind of the idea with breakout rooms. And then there is a lot of tools. So you're talking about each of these strengths, learning style, leadership, basic desires, fears, internal message, personal growth, communication. But also in the book, there is actually, if someone's really torn between two types and it's really important to them to get to one, which I might go ahead and do with Sarah too, if she's feeling torn and she wants to, it's important to her to find like, oh, is there just one type that's my type? In the book, you can look at, okay, if you are, let's see, I'll find the page here for you guys. It's pretty long, so hopefully, okay, so it goes over each type even more in detail. So you could pull up that page because it talks about, here are some exercises to help ones. And then, it goes so on. So it goes through each type even more deeply. So when you're coaching the person, they might know what their type is, so that can be even more helpful to explore that together. Let's see, I'm gonna get to so after the types are listed, so page 84 actually helps you make distinctions between each type. So 1 and 2, what they have in common, what's the essential difference, and then there's an essential question. So for example, like if I go, so it goes like 1 with each number, then 2 with each number, and so on. So it starts at page 84. But I believe, let's see, if you're looking at the PDF, it actually says
84.
It's 93 in the PDF, but it says page number 84 as if it was the book in the Core Motivation book. But it helps you, it gives you a question you can ask to really help them distinguish between types. So that can be a really helpful thing to explore too. So it just depends on what. Oh, Kellen, did you have a question? Sorry, the internet is hesitating.
I don't.
Okay. Eddie, what's your question?
You say page 84?
Yeah, so it'll show, the page number will say 84, but on the top of the PDF, it'll actually be 93. So if you open up the Core Motivation book, the top of the page will say 84.
We're talking about this book, or you're talking about the PDF?
Yeah, there's 2 PDFs. So I'm talking about the Core Motivation book. It's in a PDF form. So it's the longer one. You can pull up on your screen now. Okay. So the idea is to ask Being questions. And like Sarah said, this is something where you give them a lot of space as you dig into it, because they are deep and they do look inward. But the whole idea is exploring, gaining awareness, learning more about yourself, maybe even clarifying the type. And then ideally doing a little mini experiment at the end, as your action step. It could be something else, depending on what they want to do. It could be something depending on what they want to do. Is the connection messing up for anyone else, or is it just me?
You do keep kind of slurring a little bit in your words as far as the internet connection.
Yeah, on my end, all of you guys are frozen. This is weird.
Oh, no.
Did you guys follow what I said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I want to guess to have 20 minutes each to coach. So 40 minutes total in breakout rooms, and we'll have 10 minutes for takeaways. Does anyone have any questions before we go? I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording.